This is not a ride sharing video. I repeat, this is not a ride sharing video. What up, folks? Once again, it is your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. We are going to be talking about what we can do to come together to stop mass casualty events. Issues at schools. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Give me a second. As always, this is a MAGA-friendly program. It is and always will remain MAGA-friendly. Nevertheless, liberals are welcome too. There is no banning, blocking, or censoring for your commentary. You don't have to agree with the host on this damn program, regardless of what your point is. Is there anything we can do to come together, any bipartisan action we can take to agree on how to limit the amount of mass casualty events in this country? Obviously, we are not going to place limitations on the Second Amendment anytime soon. So let's put that to the side. As a liberal, I tend to believe that there are problems in what I just put to the side. Nevertheless, let's tackle what folks on the other side actually believe has some of the problems in it. Mental illness. A lot of these folks that are committing these crimes have left behind all sorts of red flags in regards to mental illness. The folks on the right, my beloved Republicans, MAGA, conservatives, also point out often that the problem is mental illness. So for us on the left, how about putting aside the Second Amendment for now and actually stepping over there and asking, what are you willing to do in regards to mental illness? That's what we're going to talk about today. We've seen Chicago, Los Angeles, New York. We've seen what they've tried to do with banning or limiting guns. Folks on the right believe that doesn't work. So we're going to get outside of the liberal areas. We're going to go down to Texas. We're going to go down to Florida, other Republican areas where there are mass casualty events, and tackle it from that perspective. If you're in Texas and you are a Republican, and tackle it from that perspective. If you're in Texas and you are a Republican and you believe mental illness is the problem, what are you willing to do to deal with the problem that you admit is existent? Let's go to the comments. If liberals don't want guns, ban liberals from getting guns. I don't know if that would stop the problem. Are we assuming that all of the shootings in this country are taking place by liberals? I don't understand that one. And that could also be thrown in terms of abortion. If Republicans don't want abortions, then ban Republicans from getting abortions. See how that works. You are not ready for mental health. Monica, elaborate. What does that mean? Let's restore hospitals specifically for the mentally ill. I think that's a good start. But once again, we're going to have the common phrase, who is going to pay for it? Nevertheless, let's go to the box and let's keep the program moving. Rabbit MB, good afternoon. Welcome to. Start out with mental illness. What is your definition of mental illness, Rabbit?
Well, mental illness can be a variety of things. For example, depression, anxiety, ASD. Those are just insomnia can actually also be one, which because that can cause.
I can't. Okay, let's go with that. I can't sleep, and I got an AR-15 under the bed. Should I lose the right to have that AR-15? You said not being able to sleep, insomnia, is mental illness. Would you take away my gun rights because I can't get sleep at night?
Once it becomes once it starts affecting your health and others in a way, for example, since before I was medicated, I was sleeping 2 to 3 hours on average. That affected my work. Okay. I was losing weight. I became actually very depressed, agitated, and was getting worse. So amongst being now in a butchery, someone who's on edge the whole time was not necessarily the safest thing. I almost lost my index finger through a mistake because I was going through such a bad depression, anxiety, and lack of sleep.
Right.
So now if you throw
I
in
get
all
your point.
those things, even if I was in America, American citizen, I had all that. I did not. The Second Amendment wasn't there. I would still have that
Okay.
mental illness.
Let me give it to you this way. I was driving home from work. I have not slept properly. I got in an accident, and when the paramedics put me in the ambulance, they also found a handgun in my vehicle. I made it clear, listen, I've been tired lately, and that's why I fell asleep on the road and got into an accident. I'm admitting that I'm having trouble sleeping. They found a gun on me. Should I lose my gun rights?
No.
Okay. So insomnia, not necessarily.
No, not necessarily, but depression, anxiety, maybe there are others. Those are just a few I mentioned
Okay. Let me give you another example. Let me give you another example. I'm a young mother. I just had a child. After having the child, I've been going through what they refer to as the baby blues, going through depression since I've had this child. There is no instructions that comes along with raising a child. This kid is crying all times of damn night, and it's stressing me out. I have a handgun in my nightstand. Should I be allowed to keep it?
Now, that is a good question. Postpartum depression affects everyone differently. I've seen some completely go off the wagon, who become dangerous to themselves, the baby, and their husbands or their spouses, and others who definitely just go to therapy or get help and assistance. I would say still no, but mental health is a problem that people are not looking at from an outside perspective.
So the woman with postpartum depression, you're taking away the firearm, yes or no?
Depends. Are you assessing her? Is she going to professional therapy? Is she getting treatment? Is she getting help for the problem? I definitely believe.
While she's getting, but keep in mind, I understand what you're saying about getting help, but while she is getting help, the problem is not fixed. There's going to be multiple meetings with a therapist and things like that. It's not currently fixed. While she is getting help, should she be allowed to keep the firearm?
I can't answer that one. That's actually a good question. I'm actually going to speak to my friend about that one. It's a good discussion. I can try give an answer next time if I'm live, but it's
right.
From. Okay. I definitely, if I'm the husband, I would be worried. Yeah. I would probably move it away, get her in a much better mental space environment. Probably like take the gun.
What if she is a single mom under the same circumstances and there is no husband to move it away?
If it's like, for example, my best friend, I would personally, out of her safety and her safety and everyone, I would take the gun, put it in my safe, and do my best to get there.
That you're committing an act of theft.
I would do it with her consent. I would discuss it with her mother and all that stuff. I would speak to her, all that. I would do my best to make sure everyone is safe, because, of course, I would be also concerned what happens, not necessarily the baby, but if she turns the gun to herself. Yeah. Then what?
Fair enough. But I just wanted to run those by you because you see how difficult this can be. All right, Rabbit, I do got to move it on. I appreciate you coming in here, though, man.
Quick. Last time I was on, I asked about the two racist terms, and you said you're going to do research on the history of it. The COON and what was the other one?
I don't think I've done that because I don't remember the terms you're mentioning.
COON. I can't say the word.
Yeah, cocoon. Okay, what's the other one?
And the other one was, I think, Uncle T. Where did that come from? And you said the origins, and we discussed, like, it was a good question because we know it's racist, but we don't know why. Where did the terms come from? You said you're actually going to look into it.
And I didn't get a chance to do that. I do apologize, but I do remember it now that you brought it up. But yeah, I never got a chance to do. I know we use in the African American community, we use the term coon to mean someone who is black but playing for the wrong team. I don't know where the hell it came from, so I do need to look that up again. Uncle Tom, on the other hand, has been warped. I believe the origination of that was positive, but I didn't get a chance to look it up. I do apologize with that. I do have to look that up.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
Fair enough. Appreciate you coming back in, man.
enjoy.
Okay, looking in the Scott says wrong. Elaborate. Let me know what you think is wrong about what I just said. I'm assuming you're talking about Coon and Uncle Tom. Let me know. The movie Glory should be banned. Why? I mean, that movie's what, 30 years old? I think that's what Morgan Freeman or something. I've never seen that movie, by the way, but why should it be banned? People kill. Items and tools do not, says Buddha. Then why the hell would you make cocaine or heroin illegal? A bag of smack on the table will never jump up and kill someone. Drugs do not kill people. People using drugs irresponsibly kills people. If you want to use that type of phrase to protect gun rights, that's just going to apply to a whole host of things that we have outlawed. Just want to bring it to you that way. All right, we'll keep it moving. If you're banning books, you have to ban movies. Well, some movies have been banned, so to speak. I mean, what is the 1920s movie that was racist as hell? Proof of Life or something like that. Some movies have been banned. Some movies have been banned. Nevertheless, I mean, I assume you're talking about showing these movies to children. We can talk about it from that point. Keeping it going, we will go back to the box. As always, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 10,000 likes. The program always will remain MAGA friendly. Liberals are always welcome, but MAGA is my preferred guest. Let's keep it going with Cleve Dog. Good afternoon, Cleve Dog. What we're trying to find out is what the hell can we agree on to stop mass casualty events at schools, workplaces, shopping centers? What can we actually agree on?
Nothing.
Why? Why is that? I mean, everybody cares about children. Why can't we come to any kind of agreement? Are the guns more important than the damn kids?
No, the Second Amendment is more important to all of us.
Than children?
No, it's important to all of us, including you too.
But children are important to all of us as well. We're losing kids right and left, but yet we cannot agree on anything. The first thing when we talk about kids losing their lives, the first thing we bring up is, well, the Second Amendment is important to me. I mean, we're talking about saving kids. Let's focus on that. What can we agree on?
About the Second Amendment, Tim, we won't have the First Amendment, which gives you the right to sit here and talk.
Do you realize, I mean, Cleve, come on, do you realize how many countries you and I could have this same conversation in that doesn't have the Second Amendment? Why have that right?
Because other countries don't have the Second Amendment. They don't have amendments, period.
But they still have the first. You told me the Second Amendment is the reason we have the first and the right to have this conversation. I'm pointing out to you that there are a hell of a lot of countries that do not have the Second Amendment, and we still would have the right to have this conversation. Why is that?
Tim,
I'm listening.
Look at what's going on in the Middle East and things of that nature. We're still ranked, 11th in the country, in the nation, in the world? Hey, violence?
If we're ranked 11, no. The countries that are ranked 1 through 10, how many of them have the Second Amendment?
None. We're the only
Then
ones.
how did they get the ranking? How did they get the ranking of 1 without the Second Amendment if that amendment is so important? All right, my caller dropped. I don't know what happened. Cleve Dog, feel free to come back through. It just dropped out. As always, I don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their commentary. The fact that you might disagree with the host, what do I say? It doesn't mean a damn thing here. I always give you plenty of time in the box to state your point, regardless if we agree or not. It's not about that. The program is MAGA friendly. Let's keep it going. Typical uneducated responses from a Republican Second Amendment. Gomez019, be kind to the guests. They say, F them kids. Sad, says Boss Lady Cannon. If they are saying F the kids, that is very, very sad. Only the government should be able to buy bullets and you need a permit. Jay Waters, you do understand people can make rounds themselves. If you can purchase gunpowder, some form of a projectile, and get yourself some brass, people will find it. I'll give you an example. Even in prison, there are people who have been able to make weapons that feature projectiles. I think they call them zip guns and things like that. They have been able to make single-shot firearms in prison from the materials they can get access to. So I don't know if banning the creation of bullets or the production of bullets, manufacture of rounds would be enough. I just don't. There's a hell of a lot of chemists walking around that could find a way to produce some type of explosive, and all you need is at that point is a projectile and something to house the explosive in. Looking in the comments, yes, we can make gunpowder from stuff at the grocery store. It's a hell of a lot of angry ass MacGyvers out here that identify as Republican. Let me go back to the box. You guys got me cracking up today. All right, nevertheless, we're going to go straight to my boy OK Old Timer. Haven't seen Old Timer in here. What the hell can we agree on? What can we agree on, Old Timer, to reduce casualties in places like that?
The limitation of any type of firearm is not within reason or logic, because somebody with any kind of knowledge realizes that they make air rifles and magnetic rifles now that shoot harder than any firearms that we have in production. Okay.
Wow.
But
let me ask you this. Let me ask you. I'll let you continue. But I want to ask you this. When you mentioned that limiting weapons is out of the question. How did they get a machine gun ban? You can't get a machine gun in this country. You can only get semi-autos and down. Why is it that gun owners are okay with that?
That's not true. You can actually, just the same way with a suppressor, you can fill out a form and submit it with a tax payment. It's called a tax stamp to the ATF, and get a permit for a fully automatic machine gun. It's legal to do.
I did not
as long as you fill out the form.
I did not know that. Wow. But there is but if you're talking about a form, then there is some form of a light effort of infringement on it. You got to do extra stuff to get it. Why are gun owners okay with this extra step to get a machine gun versus a handgun?
Well, I wouldn't say that they are or aren't. It's just a personal, a personal want. I don't have any personal want, though. I own a company that does wildlife control work. So when I have to go do predator control or deer depredation, I use an AR, and it's very effective. But it's never run out of the house on its own. But from what I understand and from what I've read, the subject was under mental health treatment, and I think that
exactly.
I think in that situation, patient-client confidentiality should go right out the window, especially when he had a friend that warned the police department that he thought something bad was going to happen. And now this doctor steps up and says, okay, he was under she was under mental health care. I think, not all of them happened because people were under mental health care, but those that were under mental health care, I think patient-client confidentiality should go out the window in those situations for certain.
Okay, that's fine. So let me ask you the same question I asked my first caller. If a woman is going through postpartum stress after having a child and is stressing her out, should she lose her firearm rights?
If it's gotten bad enough where she has to go seek professional advice and medication and to try to straighten things out, yeah.
What if it's gotten that bad, but she has not sought advice? What if maybe one of her girlfriends or something decides to tell a close friend, this is really stressing her out. She's crying all times of night and things like that. Should they be able to go in her house and take her firearm away?
Well, I don't think that just going in and red flagging would be the answer, but I think that there should be some detective work. I mean, our law enforcement, unfortunately, they're only set up as a response unit. They're not set up as a crime prevention and stop it right now unit. So they've got to figure out a way to head it off. So if they get two notifications from two valid people that are concerned, then absolutely, they should go and check out who they're concerned about.
Let me present this to you. I actually saw this from a Iraq war veteran. I forgot what the story was about, but he was questioned in regards to getting out of the military, and he stated that I decided to get out the military after I had seen too much. He talks about a suicide issue with a bus over there blowing up body parts everywhere, and that made him decide to get out of the military. "Quote unquote, I had seen too much." Now he stated that after coming home, he has, he's crying in the middle of the night, and that image cannot be removed from his head. Do you think a war vet under those circumstances should still be able to have a firearm at home?
Speaking as a veteran, as a combat veteran, it's just something that we have to understand that what we saw because we were under orders. We didn't, just decide one morning, hey, we want to go to war. Nobody wants that.
Right. But we're talking mental health, though. I get that he had no choice; they had to see it. But we're talking about mental health. Should that individual that's waking up crying in the middle of the night, they cannot forget these images of death, should they be allowed to maintain their Second Amendment rights?
No, unfortunately, I hate to say that about my fellow veterans, but no, I don't think they should. If they suffer from a truly diagnosed PTSD, then, until they get it under control, get the guidance they need or whatever, and then reassessed, they should not be around firearms unless, properly supervised.
Now, you do realize how many veterans have come out and admitted they have PTSD. That we're not even talking about the ones that are undiagnosed or afraid to seek help, but you do realize you would take firearms from a hell of a lot of veterans with that.
Yeah, I know that. And, and that's why I hate to say it, but I also realize that the VA will give you PTSD for anything just to be able to give it to you. Right. I mean, it can be something that didn't even happen in the service. It doesn't even have to be service related. It can be something in your childhood. And if you went through the service and never saw combat, you can still claim PTSD, and they'll give it to them.
What about someone, because we do know veterans and folks in law enforcement often do swallow their pistol. What about somebody who has tried to take their own life unsuccessfully? Do you believe they should be allowed to get a firearm back again?
No. Okay. No, I don't. I never understood that. I never understood that U.S. statute either, that suicide is the only crime that you can commit or attempt to commit. And if you fail, you can be punished with death by the state for trying it. So it never made any. Yeah. And it never made any sense to me. But I think if you attempted suicide and you were unsuccessful, then no, you shouldn't have, because you might be successful. You might be successful at the wrong moment, standing in a bus terminal or something, or standing next to a schoolyard when you decide, well, I'm just going to make the news so everybody can read my name instead of just being a single statistic. No, if you tried it and you weren't successful, you should lose it. If you're claiming PTSD, whether you're in the service or not, I think you should lose it until you get it under control and get reassessed. And I certainly think that patient-client confidentiality should go out the window if you're being treated for mental disorders.
Okay, let me give you one that's somewhat controversial, but this is a real case that we're all familiar with. George Zimmerman, the Sanford Floridian that took the life of Trayvon Martin, it became a big racial issue where he called the police and pointed out an African American was walking through the neighborhood and he was going to stop this individual because, quote unquote, they always get away. Now, it turns out that this guy was not committing any crime, but it created a confrontation where George Zimmerman states he had to defend his life and had to take the life of Trayvon Martin. This is a confrontation that an armed man essentially created on his own. He still has gun rights. Do you believe people in this situation should be able to maintain their gun rights?
No, he shouldn't. He should no, because he instigated that whole situation. I think he should have lost more than just his gun rights in that situation. It's as tragic as it was, brother was just walking down the road minding his own. He wasn't up in his yard. He wasn't egging his house or nothing like that. He posed no threat. So we have laws that, I carry, and I've got laws that say that unless my life or my wife or children are in direct threat, I can't withdraw my sidearm just because I don't like the way somebody looks or just because they're walking down the road.
Yeah, and I do tend to agree with that. And real quick in the comments, I am Bo Moto, or someone said a jury did not think so strange. Well, you can charge someone in a manner that you know they will not be found guilty, such as charging a guy with first degree premeditated murder when you know this was not a premeditated murder. So you can charge them in a way that allows them to be, freed, so to speak, or acquitted because you charged them with the wrong crime. So that's likely what happened. But old timer, I think you and I probably agree on a lot of the issues concerning mental illness. The problem is we don't have enough of us like this. Like, for instance, the military veteran discussion you and I had. I've had callers on here who suggest that guy should not lose his gun. If a military veteran is waking up in the middle of the night screaming from prior images, I've had plenty of people say he should still be able to have a gun.
Yeah. A lot of those come from supporters of the veterans, and I appreciate everybody that supports veterans. I really do. Love you to death. We went over and did what we did because we were under orders and because we thought it was in the best interest of the country. So we appreciate the support. However, it's still of concern. I don't want 24/7 anymore. I don't want them unaliving themselves, let alone anybody else. So if they're claiming PTSD and if it's diagnosed as such, that's a mental health disorder, and there's no patient-client confidentiality that should come into play with that.
Yeah, real quick, I gotta move it on. But before I let you go, now you support Trump. You identify as MAGA, correct?
I supported him in one election. I didn't support him in the other.
Okay,
but yeah, I'm typically a Republican voter. I vote that party.
Okay. The individuals on the lawn on January 6th calling for the death of the vice president, should they maintain their gun rights?
No, those are, the ones that were doing that.
No, not the ones. Hang on, not the ones that went in the Capitol, but we're talking about the ones that were on the lawn with the device, chanting that the vice president needed to be put in the device. Should they keep their gun rights?
Yeah. Unfortunately, they probably should, because all they were doing was running their mouths because somebody started it up and the crowd followed suit. And you can say anything you want that doesn't justify an action.
You are less than a mile from the vice president, and you have literally brought a device designed to take someone's life, and you're suggesting you want to kill him, and you're going to let him go home and just grab a gun.
No, that'd be a different story in that situation. If you saw somebody, the threat on the life of the vice president or the Speaker of the House or any of them, is an investigatable offense just making the threat. But if you see them making the threat and then you see them headed out of the park, probably hold them for a little while.
So what's the difference between a voter being right near the VP threatening his life as opposed to somebody who lives across the street from a school threatening the children's life?
Well, there's a lot of difference.
Give me some examples.
Well, one of the big examples is frustration. Somebody's going to open their pie hole and start threatening an elected position's life, an elected official's life. Then, in a crowd especially, they're probably just running along with the crowd more than likely. But that's frustration. They're frustrated with the system. They're frustrated with the administration, whatever their frustration is. But a school full of children, there's no frustration there with those children. There might have been with the teachers.
There's badass kids out there, man. Maybe they've been on my lawn. Get off my lawn. They driving down the street playing music, or you better get walking down the street playing music. I mean, there are reasons to be mad at kids. There's no reason to harm them, but there are reasons to be frustrated with children.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I was a kid and we did things back then. It wasn't publicized and we did stuff when I was growing up that today's world wouldn't have tolerated for 1 second. We would have probably got popped just for being around when I was growing up. It's just, a difference of circumstances. I haven't been in either one of them, so I really can't speak fairly on one way or the other, but I can understand the frustration in a crowd of people expanding and people running their mouths, as opposed to the frustration that you just see some little children playing and their laughter is annoying you, and then you decide you want to go do something to them. That's two different things there to me.
All right, old timer. Appreciate you coming in. Spirited debate. You're always welcome back.
All right. Have a good one, brother.
Absolutely. Now, to follow up with something, I'll keep it moving, but in regards to his comment, it's a difference between seeing some children just having fun and you decide to take out your anger. Well, what if it just happens to be a bunch of drag queens having fun? I mean, I just want to point that out, that oftentimes people do not like seeing people having fun. That happens. Looking in the comment, come on, brother, the Republican Party needs your balance. Well, that's what we're trying to do here, is have a conversation in regards to what we can tackle. Right now is not the time to deal with the Second Amendment. Hell, I don't know when the hell is going to be the time to deal with the Second Amendment. But nevertheless, owning firearms is not the only issue contributing to what's happening at schools, shopping markets, clubs, you name it. There are other things at play. So until we can even discuss the Second Amendment, how about discussing the other things that are in existence? Even the Republican Party, even the diehard supporters of the Second Amendment admit mental illness is an issue. So why not discuss that? Both sides of the aisle admit mental illness is part of the problem. So let's tackle the satellite issues that orbit around the Second Amendment. We can put that off and tackle some of this other stuff. Even though it may not terminate what's going on, maybe it would reduce it. So that's the purpose of what we're doing here. By the way, the program is and always will remain MAGA friendly. Tap your screen. 600 plus of you in here. Get your boy up to 20,000 likes. It helps out the algorithms, brings more MAGA to the program. Liberals are welcome as well, but MAGA will remain my preferred guest. I don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their damn commentary. Look it in the comments. Guns are the issue. Stop making excuses. We do this every week, says Beefcakes. Guns do play a part. That is the left side of me, the liberal in me. Nevertheless, there are other issues. Guns are not the only reason why this crap is happening. Why not tackle the things that people are willing to discuss first, and then we can eventually try to get to the meat of the issue? How about that? Be willing to sit down to the table and discuss other points other than just your own. That's all I'm asking. All right, let's keep it moving. New guy, 21. Welcome to the program. I love a name. New guy. Mental illness needs to get some funding as physical illness. Sheer perfection, like the name, agree with the comment. New guy, good afternoon.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. What can we, is there anything we can actually agree on to stop this stuff from happening to children, folks in grocery stores and things like that?
Well, the thing that, I think has been an issue for I don't know how many years is we have limited security at our schools, if any
What
at
do you want
all.
to do? What do
Well,
you want to do?
like for one thing, I know a lot of schools that I've been to, they do have controlled access for starters. And let's use this Tennessee as an example where the chief of police did confirm that the shooter was going to an attempt at a different school, but they had security. And
Mm-hmm.
it was going to be difficult for this individual to achieve the goal. I've been saying this for a long time that you stop a bad person, with a good person. And, if you have resistance, if you have pushback, it's
What
not going to
what
happen.
happened? What happened in Uvalde with all those good people outside? What about Parkland, Florida? They had good people with a gun working at the school. What? How do you explain that?
Those were individuals, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, that weren't trained properly. I mean, in both
What? We're
situations.
talking about cops. Wait a minute. We're
Yeah,
talking about one guy was the chief of police. What do you
I
mean they're
agree with
not
you.
trained properly?
Well, think about it once. If they have them on video doing other things, and I actually said this, I'd have to find the video and go back, but I said point blank that if it's true that these police in Uvalde, like you used, did not do their job like they're supposed to, they should be fired. You were paid to run towards the threat, not run away. Simple as that.
Are you willing to pay teachers enough to run toward the threat?
If they're willing to do it, if they're not willing to do it, then there should be security at schools. I made a video about this the other day after what happened in Tennessee. Children are our most precious, irreplaceable thing. I'm a father of three. I don't know if you have kids or not, but I mean,
Yes,
seriously,
I
we
do.
can't replace these guys, but yet for some reason, we don't treat them like such. And it's kind of frustrating.
Well, let me give you my spiel on that as to why I believe that's happening. And by the way, folks, tap the screen, get your boy up to 20,000 likes. Appreciate you guys being on the app with your boy. Could be anywhere else. The fact that you're here with me is always an honor. The reason we treat children different than money or extremely expensive purses and things like that is because of the residual effects. In regards to children being involved in mass casualty events, there's also a host of teachers that routinely get in fights with students. You want a student to get shot by an angry teacher? Teachers also come to school depressed and dealing with anxiety. They do that a lot more than we have school casualty events. So the problem is, if you allow teachers to carry firearms, you open the door for all of these other issues that we haven't discussed, such as teachers that cannot aim. I mean, we got police that cower when they're being fired upon, but we think the teachers are going to turn into Rambo. What if a teacher taking fire or assuming she hears fire returns fire and kills your kid? I mean, are we going to ignore that?
Can I? So the one thing that I do want to stress is that teachers do perform a very difficult job, and I also think us as parents, it's our responsibility to set our kids up for success. And what I mean by that is when we send our kids to school, they should have manners and be respectful. And unfortunately, there are parents that think it's okay to send their kids to school, and now the teacher is supposed to be their babysitter and deal with this stuff. And
Okay,
I
true,
don't find it to
true.
be okay at all.
No, but
So
that's life. I get that. I agree with you, but unfortunately, we got some badass kids out there. That doesn't mean little Timmy should be shot by
no,
Miss
no,
Greg in third grade. We don't want him killing them.
no. I
Oh,
know. I'm just saying, like when I was in school, like I graduated in '97. I don't know when you graduated, but I was a lot more respectful to my teachers than what I see kids doing now to their teachers.
Yeah.
I never thought
I agree
once
with I
ever.
agree with all of that. We got
Yeah,
children nowadays that have mental illness and go to school and take the fact that their parents got divorced out on their teacher. But we
yes,
don't
sir.
want that kid to get shot by the teacher in self-defense or something.
No, and that's what I mean. There's a lot of things that we need to look at and address. I'm not going to say that this problem is going to be fixed overnight, but it's not like this hasn't been going on for a long time, and it's just like nobody wants to do nothing about it, and they just want to kick the can down the road. I mean, when I was in high school, Columbine happened. It's not like this
Right.
shit just started, pardon my French, just started happening. Like nobody wants
Right.
to address it. They want to make excuses and just point the finger at one situation,
Well,
and that's it.
I don't know about that new guy. I would submit to you that folks are submitting what they believe are solutions and they're getting shot down and told your solution is bullshit. People
Oh,
are submitting solutions. Same thing with mental illness. There is no shortage of Republicans that state that the problem is mental illness. But then when you present cases of mental illness to them, they're hesitant to do anything.
yes, sir. I agree with that. I'm very vocal about that. Mental health is a huge issue. Like I stress every day that I am a carry conceal holder myself. I'm also a veteran. I have a safe full of guns. They don't just jump out of the safe by themselves and go shoot people. Logical,
No.
reasonable thinking people do not do this. And until we
Right.
realize that and address that, it's not going to change.
Yeah. Well, some would argue if you got 100 guns at home, you're not a reasonable thinking person. That's what the liberals would argue. But I get your point. But yeah, until
I
we
don't have
can,
that many. I don't have that many. But I
okay,
mean, some of them were, I actually inherited from my grandfather because they're old. They're actually really cool.
right?
But you know what I mean? It's just that's what I'm saying. Like, rational thinking people don't go do this. They just don't.
No, no, I tend to agree with that. All right, new guy, have we talked before?
No, sir, we have not. But we do follow each other, so I do appreciate you.
Absolute, absolute. Well, my door is open anytime. Appreciate you coming in there.
All right, have a good day.
You too. All right, look. That's what we're trying to find out is what the hell can we agree on? We know what we do not agree on. Every single time there is one of these events, you hear the left start talking about gun control and you hear the right start talking about defending the Second Amendment. What gets lost in the middle of all of that shit? The actual victims. Nobody is talking about what can we do to help the victims. And I am an individual that grew up in the church, but I'll be the first to say thoughts and prayers don't do shit in regards to this. How many times do you got to say thoughts and prayers for the same type of incident before you realize your thoughts and your prayers ain't working? So what's getting lost is arguing over the Second Amendment and ignoring the fact that until we come to some sort of agreement, we are going to continue having these debates. I've only been doing these live streams about a year, maybe a little bit less than a year. I think I've done about 6 shows on mass casualty events already, about 6 of them. And I haven't even really discussed the shit that goes on in the hood because there's more shootings going on there. But those are not mental illness related. Those are enemies shooting at each other. We're talking about people taking the life of somebody they really have nothing in common with. Just simply doing it for the sake of taking that individual's life. Talking about Buffalo, New York. Stuff like that. So how can we come to some sort of a conclusion or an agreement that we are willing to actually say, yeah, okay, we can at least do that. Other than someone coming out and yelling, I'm about to go to school and dismiss the class permanently. If a person doesn't yell that out, virtually anything else we seem to give them a pass on. What does it take for folks to say, yes, this individual is crazy as hell and we need to disarm them? Going back to the box, if the app works correctly, we'll keep it moving with Jamie Pizzini, friend of the program, always welcome on the program. Jamie,
Hey,
what
what's
can we
that?
come to an agreement?
I actually I wanted to make sure I said that I was listening when you were talking to the old timer, and even though he'd probably get called a rhino these days, he's one of the respectable Republicans I'm shocked to hear from at this point, and a very in a good way. So I
Why
like
would
what
he be called a rhino? Why would he be called a rhino,
well, because he's willing to
in your
concede
opinion?
any point on the Second Amendment, and he didn't vote for Trump the second time around. So all of a sudden he's a
Good
rhino,
point.
you know. Um, but
That shows how bad it is. But yeah.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, man. But those are the kind of people that I could actually have a real conversation with, being a guy that's on the left side of the aisle today, apparently, that we could come to some type of agreeable solutions with. So, like, I liked a lot of what he said. I wanted to make sure I give him the proper respect. I know I bust their balls
Fair
over
enough.
there a lot, but when you hear good stuff, you want to make sure you talk about it. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely.
so I
So what
actually have.
about the individuals? Here's one I threw
Go
at
ahead.
him. The individuals calling for the termination of the vice president on January 6th. Do you think they should have been allowed to keep their firearms?
No, because I think what they did was a felony. I think when you threaten the life of a elected official such as the vice president, that's a felony. Um, you should have been investigated for that. That would be something that I would say right away is going to take away your gun rights. Uh,
Okay, so what about the January 6th hearings where the testimony suggested that President Trump was advised they were calling for the ending of the vice president's life, and Trump responded by saying maybe he deserved that.
Well, there you go again. The difference in their speech? Even though I think what he said was reckless, I don't think he actually said to take his life, though. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I
True,
think that
true.
we have to be
That
very
is true.
careful in what we say there. And even though I'd like to see that guy in prison, I don't think that's an arrestable offense. I think it's extremely irresponsible, but not on that wave. Um, I got two comments for you. One is you were saying earlier how you never how the bag of smack just doesn't jump up.
Your back, wait, wait. Your
But
background is so windy. Your background is windy.
oh, I'm
Try that
sorry.
again. I'm hearing a lot of wind.
Okay, so you were saying something about drugs don't jump off up out of the thing and do themselves. I swear there was some cocaine one time and it just jumped right up in my nose. I didn't do that on purpose. You know?
And you must have been hanging around a windy trap house.
Yeah, it just blew right up in my nose. I didn't know what happened, and next thing you know, I was high. At least that's what I told my girlfriend.
Okay. All right.
All
Give me
right,
the
so look,
next one. Give me
so
the
look,
next one.
a reasonable solution that's going to sound a little crazy is look for the last couple of years when COVID hit, we had children not going to school and they were doing the virtual online learning. I realize that comes with its own set of complications, but if we're really going to talk about if let's say I agree guns are off the table, which I don't agree to, but let's say I do. Um, Maybe we go to a virtual learning platform where the kids are not together in mass like that, and then that forces these people to consider something else as opposed to
But
going to school. And
that destroys social development when you turn the kids into moles. They're in the house by themselves all the time. We made a lot of interactions in regards to recess, how you learn how to relate to people and things like that. When you keep kids at home by themselves, they become wallflowers of sorts. You kids need to interact. We are a civilized species. You can't keep everybody on homeschooling.
look, I completely agree with you. I'm just saying that if the alternative is that I cannot touch even the craziest people's right to guns, then maybe we don't need to be grouping up in mass. And like
What?
you if I can't
Yeah.
take the gun away and I can't take the crazy person away, then I got to take the only other thing away that is out there, which is the mass.
Mm.
So I don't know. I don't think that's the right way to go. I
I,
mean, I'm
okay,
just
I
saying that.
gotta give you. Let me give you this one that's extremely
Okay.
popular from folks on the right.
Okay.
Arming teachers. Arming teachers.
Okay. I actually work in the school system. There is no way there is absolutely no way that I believe that is a good idea. And you can take schools that have armed or have the option to be armed. For example, I believe Uvalde was one of those where the teachers have the option to be armed. I'm not certain of that. But those types of situations, you're talking about people that are extremely stressed. They already can't control the kids they have in their classroom, and by the time I could actually go get armed, like just to give you, I'm a wrestling coach, right? I can't wear that while I'm coaching, but you could walk into my room full of 50 kids and start popping people, right? What am I going to do? Run to the corner and hurry up and undo the safe and get it? Like, there's no way the kids wouldn't have access to those weapons at some point. Like, I
Yeah.
think that is
Okay, I got
absolute
another one.
insanity. Sure.
I, yeah, and I tend to side with you on that. But before I move it on, I gotta ask you this one because this
Sure.
came in the comments from I guess that says Lake. I can't even pronounce the name, but a lot of vets. This is what he said. A lot of vets will arm and protect. What about putting veterans in schools?
Well, since they're probably the number one source of self-inflicted wounds from guns, I don't really feel like I trust that. Like and it's funny because people are like they always come up with these wild examples that sound good in an NRA soundbite, but the reality is most people that get shot by a gun are the owner of the gun to themselves, first of all. And then
Mm.
the second one is your lover, like your husband or your wife. And then it's the lover, the one you're cheating on them with, and then it's them. Like those are the top four instances of firearm use. And then when it comes
Shit.
down to somebody after that, you're like, well, we can go use one of those first four people. Nah, man. And I love our armed forces. My dad served. I think I told you this before. My dad served in the army. Like, it's not like I couldn't trust him with a firearm. But most of his buddies that he got through Vietnam with, there ain't no way I wouldn't give that guy a fork. Like, I'd be afraid he would stab somebody. So how do you determine that? And then there's a whole nother list of drama that comes along with doing that. And like I think
Yeah.
it's a better solution to put people at the door and stop them with like they do in the city. I live near Baltimore. You got to go through a metal detector to get in the building. And I realize you could get around that by using a weapon that's not metal but the harder you make it, the less the incidents are going to occur. Are we going to eliminate it? I don't think I don't think
No,
that's
I
going to
don't think
happen as long as we
I
have
don't
them.
think so either, because in the beginning it was outsiders taking up schools. Now it's the actual students taking out their own classmates. So I don't know how you prevent somebody who, because they're receiving the training on what to do if there's an event, and then they're coming back and causing the event. So you
Yeah,
actually have what? Yeah, you have trained shooters. That's what you have.
yeah, the perps know exactly how to do it. And I would tell you this, like, again, as a person who works in the school system, I have a key to every door in the building when I work there, right? So I can tell you this, kids can get in the building whenever they want. There's not even though the doors are locked from the outside and I need a scan card or a key to get in, those kids can get in anytime they want. All they got to do is say, hey, Tim, look, I'm coming over to the side door by the locker room. Can you let me in? And you're in. It's as simple as that. There's
Yeah,
there's 40 doors on the school. You can't put an officer at every one of them. It's just
yeah.
we're not willing to put that kind of money out, even if the same people that are calling to have those guards are the same ones that don't want to fund schools properly. So how are you going to get all that money to put all those people around it and guard it like it's a bank? And even to that
Yeah.
effect, I would tell you this: I go to the bank a fair bit, and there are not armed guards at every bank, and they're not a lot of them all
No,
the
not
time.
even close. Not even close. That is
Not
so
no more.
true.
They don't got to
Yeah.
keep money in the bank no more. The fractional banking system is right now. I think it's still at zero. You don't even need to keep a dollar in the bank. They can lend all they want. So like,
Yeah.
that's another reason, whole nother different conversation. But that's a whole whole thing in and of itself. The idea that we just have these
Yeah,
armed guards everywhere doesn't exist.
in my town. I can't even remember the last time I saw a armed guard in a bank. That is by no means.
No.
I'm seeing them now in stores where people do these smash and grabs. You go to a Coach store. I'm seeing armed guards outside of that stuff now.
Yeah, the only armed guards I see anymore in my town, and I live in the poorest suburb of Baltimore. So like we're a danger zone, right? Not quite as bad as Baltimore City itself, which is very very high in those types of rates, but we're the poorest one outside of there. And I can tell you this. The only armed guards I see are outside of Walmart when it's time for them to deposit their checks or to deposit their cash. So when they bring the armed guards in to take the cash out of Walmart, there is a paid police officer there standing outside, making sure no one robs Walmart. He's not there to make sure you're safe. It is
Nope.
only for the
Yeah.
cash drops. You know what I mean? And again, it's very few of them. Like he could probably get hit up too. Like it's I don't think we live
Oh
in the
yeah.
kind of world where
Oh
we
yeah.
feel where we're protected by weapons the way we think we are. Maybe the threat of
But
them, I could accept that, but just the guns themselves, no way, man. I could roll up and probably kill 20 or 30 people before anybody could do anything about it. Like if you
yeah.
can't have a school, you go to Walmart, stand in line, pop pop pop. There's 200 people there at all times. So it's a
Jesus. All right. Oh, damn, you depressed the hell out of me with that, but you are correct. That happened. And that actually happened in El Paso. In fact, there have been several events at Walmart. So I got to move it on, Jemmy.
Yeah, man,
Appreciate
always
you
a
coming
pleasure, man.
in.
Take it easy. I think you're having the right kind of conversations. I think you're talking to people in a way that they can, that they can relate to. And I just want to let you know I appreciate your progress, even though I come on and bust balls sometimes and tell jokes and whatever. But your program I think has a lot of value. I'm just curious what you're going to do when the time comes and they stop using that MAGA moniker and jump to something else. You still going to be MAGA friendly? You going to switch it up?
I'm going to talk to the people no matter what they identify as.
All right, I appreciate that, man. Because again, I think what you're doing is really valuable.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Comments. Call it out, Tim. The shooter was a leftist trans. And if he was a right winger, the media would be all over it. Pete, that is 100% accurate in terms of if it was a right wing white supremacist, the media would go nuts. From what I'm hearing, yes, the shooter was indeed a member of the LGBT community. Am I going to pretend like there is not a double standard when the LGBT community acts out versus a white supremacist? No, I agree with you. If this was a white supremacist, the outcry would be a hell of a lot stronger and different. I do agree with that. Nevertheless, as more LGBT members get involved in this kind of stuff, that outcry will grow. There's been a hell of a lot of dirt done by white supremacists. So the LGBT community has a lot of catching up to do before they get anywhere near it. Nevertheless, I will concede your comment that, yeah, there's a double standard. There is absolutely a double standard. Because of the simple history of this nation, there is going to be far more scrutiny when a white supremacist does something than virtually any other group, because the nation was founded on bad activity from white supremacists. But I do agree with that. Keeping it moving, looking in the comments, Donald Trump and Rudolph Giuliani like to cross dress. I don't know where you're getting that from, but okay. All trans are not liberals. Why would they not be? I would have to hear that. The Republican, conservative, right-wing community is very anti-trans. So if you are trans and you're not a liberal, what the hell are you? You're a socialist? I'd have to know. I'd like to hear your answer on that. Most trans are liberal. Yeah, I would assume that most trans. Keep in mind what the term progressive actually means. In modern times, progressives and Democrats agree on a lot of the same stuff. If you go back in history, when the Democratic Party was the party of slavery, progressives were Republicans. But in modern times, progressives are generally Democrats. Progressive means you want to progress or evolve the way America thinks. If you are a conservative, you tend to be a traditionalist, someone who wants to keep the country the way the founding fathers intended. And obviously the founding fathers would not have been big fans of civil rights, LGBT rights, and things like that, or even women's rights, which is why those groups I just mentioned, women, trans, LGBT, and things like that, tend to be left. Because that is the side of the aisle that sympathizes more with their cause. I'm not here to pretend like one side is better than the other. I'm just giving it to you the way it is. All right, looking in the comments. We'll keep it moving with Flash Express. Appreciate you folks holding on. Moves the names around. If I'm not getting them in the correct order, I do apologize. Flash Express, what the hell can we agree on to stop what's happening in schools to children?
I'm not sure what we can agree on, but I think the problem that you're talking about is the left is let's ban guns and the right automatically goes to the Second Amendment. Well, that's because when you start talking about banning guns, you're talking about taking guns away from millions of citizens that aren't doing anything wrong with their guns. There's way more citizens that have guns than there are people that are going and shooting up these schools. But my question is, and the last guy, he said that the only time that there's armed guards at Walmart is when there's doing a bank trap. I can tell you that's a lie. I park at Walmart on a daily, and there's several, not all, but several Walmarts that have armed security patrolling the parking lot constantly, and cops that sit at the door sometimes at some of them. Why is it that Walmart
Obviously there's different Walmarts around the country. Now, he also mentioned banks. All of the banks I use, I haven't seen an armed guard in a bank in years.
Yeah, I don't think I have either. But here's my question to follow up what I was saying about the Walmart is why is it we are so willing why is it Walmart has such protection that they can have security, armed or not, driving around the parking lot checking out for suspects, people that are suspect, but the schools don't have anybody doing that? How is it possible for somebody to break into a school in the middle of the day full of people and nobody notice before they got
Well,
in?
I would start out by countering your Walmart argument. I've been to many Walmarts, and I don't think Walmart has proper security. One armed guard. When you think about the size of Walmart, as the last caller mentioned, hundreds of people in Walmart. Even if that armed guard came looking for me in the store, I could take out dozens of patrons, as the last caller pointed out, long before they get that one armed guard. And we are assuming that one armed guard is going to play the hero. Some people will run from gunfire. Just
You're
because you give somebody a badge and a gun don't mean they're going to protect you.
true, but what I'm getting at is Walmart has hundreds of people coming in and out of their doors on a daily basis. Schools,
Right.
everybody comes to school, and then they're in school all day. There's not a lot of movement on the grounds outside of school other than them going to recess and shit. So if you have somebody that's patrolling the grounds and can see, whoa, who's this that just pulled up?
Well, but you
It's different when you're
think about the size of a school. If a person is patrolling the grounds, you could easily approach that school from one side where the person patrolling doesn't see you. I mean, some schools can be several blocks to walk around. So you could easily get on school grounds without that individual patrolling seeing you walk up.
I mean, maybe, but it would be a little bit more difficult, I think. And the other thing is when's the last time you heard about somebody taking a gun on an airplane and shooting up everybody on the airplane?
Well, they don't. Yeah, now on the airplanes, the security is far more tighter. I mean, they
Right.
do
How
have
can we
metal
stop that
detectors.
from happening? But we can't protect our kids.
Well, the problem with the schools, I think, is you do have, as I pointed out, trained shooters, where the people shooting up the schools are the same ones that receive the information on how to protect the schools.
I
You get what
guess
I'm saying?
no, I don't.
Here's an example. Here's an example. If let's say we arm teachers, you think the classmates is not going to know where the teacher has the firearm if a teacher's open carrying, or if a teacher got the gun in the desk, or if the teacher has the gun locked somewhere, the students in class are going to know where that firearm is. So if one of those students decide to come back and take out the school, they already know where the teacher's weapon is at. Or if they know which teachers are armed, they're going to know all of that. They are a trained shooter.
So my thing is I mean, gun laws being stricter are not going to stop this from happening. The only way to stop it from happening would be to completely rid society of guns altogether.
Yeah.
And I don't think we
Well,
can
how
do
do
that.
you
So
respond to folks?
the reason why we
How
can't
do you
find
re-
an
how do you
agreement.
respond to folks that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, but how do you respond to folks who suggest that when we had an assault rifles ban in the '90s, shootings went down? Do you think that's not true?
I mean, statistically, it probably shows that it did, but do I think it's because they banned assault weapons? No. I mean, I can shoot you with a 9 millimeter just as well as I can with an exposed assault rifle.
I mean, I don't disagree with that, but if the numbers say that when the ban was on, the weapons went down, why oppose the ban on the grounds where they can just find something else? If the numbers show that when we put this ban on, people still had the right to find a weapon back in the '90s, but somehow the shootings went down. Why not try what has already worked?
I don't know if it's my service or yours, but it's lagging real bad.
It's probably mine. It's probably mine. But the question I was asking is, as you pointed out, you can find another way to use handguns if they ban long rifles. But when they banned assault rifles back in the '90s, shootings went down even though they had the opportunity back then to use a pistol or something else. Why not go back and do something that clearly worked before?
Because I don't think in today's society that would really work.
Why not? What's so different about today than the '90s?
I really can't speak on the '90s because I was a little kid back then, man. But
Okay. So, but why are you automatically just assuming that
things
today is that much different? Go ahead.
things in our country are much more crazy today than they were in the '90s.
Yeah, like people shooting each other with assault rifles.
I mean, people are shooting each other with guns. Period. Every day. It doesn't matter what kind.
I get that, but I just don't understand if we did something before and it worked, why have such hesitation to trying the same thing again? At least find out. If you do it for a couple years or so and it doesn't work, then point that out it doesn't work. But why even attempt to try it when it has a history of being successful?
I mean, you make a good point with that question. I don't have an answer.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, it's good to hear from you, man. I didn't realize who you were until I heard your voice a little bit clipped. It's good to hear from you. I got to move it on, but yeah, I can
All
get
right.
on Zello and holler at you. Do you still use Zello?
I do from time to time, but not as much as I used to. You been getting on there?
Occasionally. Are you still traveling?
Oh yeah, I'm in St. Louis right
Okay.
now.
All right, fair enough. All right, well, yeah, I had to catch up with you, man. Appreciate you coming in here, though.
Yep. Have a good one.
You too. You too. All right. Me and that gentleman we go back conversation outside of here. Looking in the comments, I'm all good with separating the country. Right wing nuts can stay south. Adam, no, we don't want that. Adam, the pilot, we do not want that. We don't want to separate the country. I don't want to get to the point. That's the whole purpose of why I do this here on the app, is to show that you can be on the opposite side of the aisle and have civilized conversation with folks. We don't need to separate each other. That would make America a much weaker nation. If we start breaking in half like that, that can create conflicts and ultimately civil civil outcome. I want to say civil war, but yeah, it could create something like that. By the way, folks, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 30,000 likes. I appreciate that. If this is what you favor, civilized dialogue from both sides of the aisle, without any fear of being blocked, banned, or censored, we don't do that here. Follow the program. Helps out the algorithms. Helps out your boy. MAGA is my preferred guest. The program is and always will remain MAGA friendly. Nevertheless, liberals are welcome as well. Looking in the comments, capitalism would never allow the country to break up. Yes, it would, if they could make more money by breaking up. Yeah, they would. Capitalism would absolutely. Think about it. If we have civil unrest in this country, people are going to make money based on that. Obviously, weapon sales and things like that would go up. If you got a politician that happens to have stake in the sale of weapons and the sale of incarceration or whatever the hell they're doing at that time, yeah, there are ways. Think about it. Think about this. You want a citizen to be a contributing member of society, pay taxes and things like that. Nevertheless, look at all the incarceration we have in this country, more than any other nation on earth, percentage and sheer numbers wise. Why is that? Because you make money off of locking people up. So, yeah, you can still have a civil war or some type of separation in this country if the people in power are profiting off the separation. You always need to pay attention to what are the vested interests of your politicians. Almost all politicians, and I'm not doing this as a ding on President Trump, but all politicians are business people before they get elected. I would suggest that Obama's probably one of the only ones that wasn't a deep, hardcore businessman before getting elected. Pay attention to what the hell they're making their money off of before they become the commander in chief. Because you can expect them to promote whatever they're making their money off of once they become president. So if they're making their money off of incarceration or the sale of weapons, or if they're like Dick Cheney with Halliburton, shit like that, they're going to do what's in the best interest of those companies. Understand it? All right, looking in the comment section. We'll keep this open. We'll keep it on moving with attacking the ignorance. Two pews, they aren't as valuable as my daughter's safety in schools. You don't hear that very often. Wow. So you have two firearms and they're not as valuable as your daughter's safety in school. So it sounds like you are willing to make concessions for the safety of your child. Attacking the ignorance. Good afternoon.
How you doing? How you doing? Got a question for you.
I'm doing good.
why would you try to compare the trans group or the LGBTQ community with the Proud Boys? I'm sorry?
Where I can hear you. I said LGBT without voice.
Well, earlier in the conversation, I heard there was an equation with LGBTQ community and white supremacist group.
Yeah, we're talking about the culprits of mass casualty events. There has been a very small, minute number of LGBT members committing to these events. That's where that comparison came up.
Well, I wouldn't put them in that same category though. That's the thing. And with mass shootings,
A,
I don't hear
a killer is a
anybody.
killer.
Well, true. A killer's a killer. But the thing is, when there's mass shootings recently or long time, they seem to be straight white Christian males. How come they're not bringing that up? How come all of a sudden, with this person who did this shooting in Tennessee, which is horrible, they're saying she's a trans. So why are they try to use that as a reason why she committed this assault? Why?
Well, and I get your point you have going to be brought out. If it went, like you mentioned, white supremacists are doing this, we're going to bring it up. African American is doing drive-bys, which is a predominantly an African American crime. You don't
Right.
hear a lot of other to point out things that are in common from the people who are committing these crimes. Mass casualty events up till very recently, as you pointed out, were predominantly white Christian males.
Yeah.
For some reason, there's now starting to be other people doing it, but it used to be that.
Yeah, it's horrible no matter how. It's
Yeah,
horrible no matter how and who. But now the thing
yeah, I
is,
don't disagree with that.
but now the thing is, by people trying to say, oh, it's a trans group, now that puts a target on that community. Everybody,
Well,
a lot of people already hate them now. Now they're going to put another.
yeah,
Now they're going to put another target on them.
I kind of sense that as well. That's the first thing I thought of, is that individual has set back the trans community. Certainly, right now, as you point out, they have a lot of detractors already. But
Yeah.
you got to call a spade a spade. The person who did it was a trans individual.
Yeah, but again, the person who did the last mass shooting was a white Christian straight male. They're not saying that.
And we called that out as well. Here's the point I'm trying to make. You can't complain that people will not honor your pronouns, and then you go out and murder a few people and say, "Well, now my pronouns, don't bring it up." I mean, if
Yeah.
you're doing bad, we're going to mention your pronouns as well.
Right. And then the last guy you just talked to, you said, well, back in the 90s they had the ban against ARs.
Right.
Let's do that again. He pivoted and would not accept that process because they don't want to. They
Yeah.
don't like that scenario. Well, no, we
Yeah.
can't do that. It's not going to work. Nobody who owns it. I'm a gun owner, and I've said it before. We need better background checks and so on and so forth. But the thing is this: President Obama put an executive order in regards to people with mental issues purchasing guns, pew pews.
Okay.
Donald Trump in February or March, when he became president, removed that executive order stopping people with mental issues purchasing pews.
Yeah.
There has to be
That's where yeah, and that was the whole purpose of the video, is to come to areas where I think folks on the right and left can agree, and it does seem like folks on the right do not want the Second Amendment infringed on, even up to a lot of folks with clear red flags when it comes to mental illness. They're still fighting for those folks to have firearms as well. So that's an area I would say that we need to start with. We know banning the Second Amendment or limiting the Second Amendment is out of the question right now. So folks on the right admit mental illness is part of it. The problem is we can't get them to define what the hell mental illness is, though.
Exactly.
Even when you give them clear-cut cases of mental illness, they still push back and say, "Get that person a gun."
Exactly, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
They support their rights to have a a gun, over life.
So
And
if you were asked,
that they don't care. I've talked to a lot of people who own guns. Well, yes, I would rather have my Second Amendment rights and let somebody get shot. They've said it.
Wow.
It's all.
So in other words, you believe. So you actually believe folks on the right value guns more than human life?
1,000%.
Wow, that's bad. That is bad. Then how the hell can we get past that? We can't get rid of the right. How can we get past that type of a block?
The thing is this. Now, I don't have the same platform as you do, but I talk to a lot of people too. The thing is this. I even had one really hardcore Second Amendment person. They said even if their own child was unalived, they would still not give up their right. That's how embedded it is in some of these people's heads.
Damn. And that's pretty damn devoted.
It is. It's the honest to God truth. They don't care. They don't care. And then they say the Second Amendment right, but they don't. They talk about a well-regulated militia, which they never read Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 and 16. And then like your last guy said, when was the last time somebody took a gun onto a plane and shot people? Well, the thing is this: TSA last week caught a guy trying to bring a gun on a plane.
It happens a lot. It does happen a lot. They do catch folks. Yeah, and being candid, I made a mistake when I was younger of taking a firearm to an airport. I got lucky. I was in the airport about to walk through the screening issue and realized I got to use the bathroom, and I left the fucking airport. But I've actually made that mistake. If you're used to carrying a firearm, sometimes you don't realize it's on you. It's like your wallet. You don't realize you're carrying it until I also have heard of people making a mistake and carrying guns into Mexico. Not because they intended to do anything harmful, but if it's part of your everyday gear, you make a mistake sometime and take it places you shouldn't.
Exactly. It does. And I've done the same thing. And I won't walk into a federal building. I mean, I've almost done that. But it's like, oh, God, now I got to go home, take my gun home.
Right.
Come back to the federal building where I was going to go into. I ain't going to get busted for being stupid.
It's not a good situation to be in. So,
no, exactly.
All right, attacking ignorance. I got to move it on, though, man. I appreciate you in here as always.
Well, it's nice seeing you again. Don't be gone so long next time, man.
I was on vacation, but I got you. Appreciate it. All right. In the comments, we only have two choices. Democrats help people, Republicans hate people. Fisher Mark, that's kind of strong. You think Republicans hate people? You think the Republican Party is full of hate? Wow. I don't want to go that. I don't think that's true. I understand there are hateful members within the Republican Party. There are hateful members among Democrats, but I don't want to say the entire party is just all hateful people. If guns are so great and safe, why did the NRA convention ban guns? Gavin, that is an excellent point, and that did come up at the time that convention was had. I do remember hearing about that. That is an excellent point. Those who speak hate are the haters. That is absolutely false. Cologne Jones. I don't ever subscribe to the theory that people bringing up hate what they used to tell Martin Luther King. That is what they tell Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and Colin Kaepernick and Ben Crump. Because you keep bringing up racism, you are the racist. That's not true. Every single civil rights leader in American history, dead or alive, has been called a racist based on that very premise. I don't agree with it. All right, looking in the comments. That's just a dumb take. Fair enough. Because radical Democrats will show up in mass and shoot up. Where has that happened? Radical Democrats showing up. That's not even a term. I know why you guys use it, but radical show up and take. Where does that happen? I'm assuming it has happened, but a radical Democrat showing up and taking everybody out. Give me an example. Give me an example of somebody with a Democratic cause showing up and doing that. I was agreeing with you, Hanson. Appreciate that. Republicans are the ones forcing their ways on people. That depends on who you talk to. In regards to Republicans being the ones facing their ways on people, you would talk about, being pro-life and things like that. But making children learn the ways of the LGBT community is what they would say in reverse. They would say you are forcing your LGBT ways on people. So I just want to make sure you understand that can be viewed from both sides of the aisle. Who said this is what happens when you take prayer out of schools? Ryan, listen, I hear people say that all the time. Things will be better if you put prayer back in schools. That works in communities that do not have a very diverse religious background. In America, where you have freedom in many different religions, you can't put prayer in schools. For the simple reason is prayer, or better yet, religion teaches you that the religion you are involved in is the only real and true religion. Most religions speak ill of other religions. So if sitting next to a Muslim, your religion teaches you that your God is the only one and true only God. And his religion teaches him the same. So you guys are both looking at each other like you worshiping some bullshit. That does not need to be in school. And their parents are going to be teaching them the same stuff. Your friend is worshiping a false God. That does not need to be in schools where children are now criticizing each other based on religion. You know already how most Americans view Islam. A lot of folks believe, didn't Trump suggest that Muslims or Islam was a hateful religion? If you got the president saying that, and you got children that are, they have parents that represent MAGA or they are Trump supporters, that means the kids are going to school thinking that their co-partners or whatever the hell their peers in school are representing terrorism. You just can't put religion back in a school in 2023. It'll work in a Muslim country where there are no Christians around. It'll work in countries that only have one religion or so. Or even in some cities in America, there's virtually nothing but Christians. It'll work there. But you can't do that in big cities. You just can't. There's too much diversity in those schools to promote religion like that. Looking back in the box, we'll keep it going with Bob Paytner. Good afternoon, Bob. Welcome back. Churches are for prayers and religion, not schools. I agree with that 100%. Church separation of churches and states. Mick says, I don't agree with the last part. Elaborate, we'll tackle it. Good afternoon, Bob. Tap the screen and get your boy up to 40,000 likes. Bob, go.
Hi. How you doing, man? Well, I've been listening.
I'm doing good. We're talking about coming to some type of an agreement.
Well, I've been listening, and I looked at some of the statistics, and realistically, I know it's a big hot spot. Everybody's on it, but in 2019, there's 500 people killed from a gun, from a mass shooting. 1,600 people were injured. Okay, that was 2019. All right, that the percentage is so small. You have more people dying of the flu than you have somebody being
Yeah,
shot.
but wait a minute. If we're gonna go based on small percent, I mean, how many kids are dying at drag queen shows? Yet we're doing something about it. How many places are promoting Sharia law? Yet we're doing something about it. So why do we ignore 500 deaths, as you're pointing out?
Well, I don't say we're ignoring it. I do think that children have the right to go to school and be safe. I mean, there's no question about that. I think there needs to be a resource officer that's armed at the school. I mean, I just think that that's something that needs to happen. I mean, you're not going to prevent every death. You're not going to prevent everybody from even if you took the guns away, you're not going to prevent it. If somebody wants to shoot somebody, they're going to. If they're so
So let
messed
me
up in the
ask you this then. In regards to you're not going to prevent deaths even if you take the firearms away.
yeah,
Give me your opinion, and we're speculating. Nobody has the right answer here. I get that, but I want to get your speculation. Why the hell is this only happening in America? This is almost no other free country is even holding a candle. I would assume that America is losing more children in schools to violence than every other first world country combined. What the hell are we getting wrong?
when I was growing up, um, and I'm probably a little bit older than you, but when I was growing up, we went to school with guns in our trucks. I mean, we had
Okay.
we I mean, nobody shot anybody at the school. You know, if you got
Okay.
mad or something, you wanted to duke it out, you did, but nobody pulled a gun. I just think that today, I've noticed this even with my own kids, that there's a huge difference in people today than it was in the '90s. I mean, I think that the social media is destroying our our value system to begin with. I think that it's uh, a huge thing. All they care about is how good they look on social media. You know what I'm saying? They don't care about,
Yeah, I know. I am the handsome liberal. I get it. Keep going.
but but when I was growing up, we didn't have any of that. You know what I'm saying? And
True. True.
uh, kids are they have more panic attacks. They have more anxiety. They have more of everything. They have more pressure, I think, on them to be something they're not to begin with. Um,
So wait, let me interrupt and ask you this then. Based on what you're saying, and I do believe there's validity to that. You got a lot of self-centered folks. You got an increased amount of mental illness and depression and anxiety. Do you believe in that environment? It makes sense to give folks more access to firearms.
well, I think this. I mean, I think it's like you know, I have a son. He's gay, and his thought process is we had when the guy was making the cakes and it was against his religion to make the cake. He couldn't understand why that guy had his right of religious freedom that you have yours. You know what I'm saying? He wanted his theory or his thought to be the right thought and the other guys to be wrong. You know what I'm saying? Does that
Yeah,
make
they
sense?
were. Yeah, they're
So,
conflict. But that's what I'm asking you though. In a society where there is more conflict than there was when you and I grew up, does it make sense to give greater access to firearms in a society that is more divided now than it used to be?
well, I mean, if you're gonna have your rights taken away, I mean, either you have your rights or you don't have them. Either you have the right to
Yeah,
have
but
to bear or you don't.
yeah, but
That,
yeah, I,
that's
I get that, but
the
I guess
big
the point we're
the
trying to
big
figure out is
yeah, yeah, but
which
it's a very
one's
thin
more
line.
important. But
It's
which one is more important? Your Second Amendment rights or doing what makes sense logically? I mean, which one is more
well that
important?
that depends on who you're talking to. That's the
I'm
point.
talking to you.
Yeah. No,
I'm
to
talking to
understand.
you. Does
Uh,
it make sense? That's why I'm asking you. Does it make sense to hand out firearms in the environment that you just portrayed?
well, again, I got to say it's my right to own one. Okay, so it's my right, it's your right, it's everybody's right in this country to own one. Whether you like that thought process or not like it, or whether you vote for it or vote against it, that's just the point. It's that those rights are given to us, and so if you take it away from one person, then you can take it away from everybody. You know what I'm saying?
I get your
And
point, but that's why I asked you. That's why I asked you which one is more important, your rights or logic. You haven't said
my
that
my,
it
my
makes logical
it,
sense. Hold on. You
in
didn't
my
you didn't say it makes logical sense to hand out firearms in this turbulent environment. You just said it's my right. So I have a right, even though it may be illogical to do so, I have a right to do it, so I should still keep my rights.
right, yeah, and that's basically what I mean. Yeah, I feel like they do background checks on people. There's obviously people going to fall through the cracks on that. I mean, they have other uh, avenues, waiting times that you have to wait in order to buy a gun. I think that those things are valid, but again, I think that in for the overall, and you can't just talk about one specific group or one. I think if you're going to allow guns for everybody, you allow guns for everybody, and then just deal with the consequences. You know, if you're going to, and I
Wait, wait, wait. The consequences are is sending your kid to school and having them come home in a box. That's
yeah.
the consequence.
Well, it's your job as a parent to 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 take to make sure your kids are safe. So when you send them to school, if it's not a safe school, then you don't send them. You take them someplace else, or you know what I'm saying?
Sometimes
Or
you don't. Sometimes you don't realize it's not a safe school until the box shows up at
right.
your house.
It's the same if you're riding around in the car. Sometimes you think everything's going by, and all of a sudden somebody T-bones you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It
I mean,
it
I get your point. I think we could
yeah.
sum it up by just like what you said. My right to own a firearm is greater than what makes sense logically.
Well, because if you take away the right, if you deter the right to own the gun, then you create a lot. You're going to create a lot more issues. But again, then you're taking away the right of it's just not me. I mean, it's every American. You know what I'm saying?
What?
If there's
Give me your opinion. An unarmed society, America unarmed. If there's an effort to disarm America, give me some of the problems you think would come up.
well, uh, there'd be you talking about shootings, then there'd be really be shootings because I, I I know people that would not release their guns without a fight. I mean,
Are
you've
they
seen
law? Are those law-abiding citizens? Are they currently law-abiding citizens?
they're law-abiding citizens, but when you take away, then you're taking away the right that was given to them by
You're not a if wait. If you get, let's say for instance, we get a super majority. Let's say Biden kicks ass in 2024 to the point where he gets a super majority in the House and Senate, and he can actually follow the constitutional path to take away, or better yet, amend the Second Amendment, where he's doing it legally. Would they give their guns up then?
I think so. I mean, there's always going to be those few that won't, but I think, I mean, most Americans want to be law-abiding citizens. Most Americans, especially Americans with guns, most of them aren't out shooting people. I mean, like I say, it's a very small percentage. You have one here, one there. I mean, when you're talking about the overall, I mean, there's 335 million Americans here. You know what I'm saying? And so, eh,
I agree with you 100%. It's a small percentage, just like there's a small percentage of airliners that do not make it to their destination and go boom in the middle of the ground. But that
right,
doesn't mean you ignore it because it's a small, people are dying. If an airliner goes down, people are dying. Who cares that it's only 0.1% of airliners? I mean, you got a bunch of dead people on the ground. You got to
right,
do
right.
something. I mean, people are dying
So,
with these
so,
things.
so, yeah. I mean, so that's like a whole different thing. I mean, if you're those airplanes, they don't go down intentionally unless you got somebody up there crazy. But the, an airplane, the crash. I mean, it's safer to drive an airplane as your car. You know, so
But here's the point I'm trying to make. Here's the point I'm trying to make. If an airliner goes down, even if it's once every 8 years, they do all sorts of deals of issues. They pass laws and they do everything they can to make sure that never happens again. When someone takes out of school, we do nothing. We offer thoughts and prayers and go back
well,
like what
I don't.
happened in Nashville. Nothing is coming out of that.
Well, you don't know that nothing's coming out of it yet. I mean, it just happened.
What do you think is
I
going to
think
come out of
I'll
it?
tell
What do
you
you think is going to come out of it?
I'll tell you one thing that I think about because the girl was a transgender. I think that mainstream media is not even pushing it. I mean, you hear more about it on Fox than you do on the main, and they'll forget all about it here short. It won't be take long because it doesn't fit their narrative. You know what I'm saying? If it was a mega,
Wait a minute. Let's take what you say, and I agree with you. There's a double standard in regards to a white supremacist doing something versus transgender. I agree with that 100%. But if, let's say, for instance, mainstream media keeps promoting it as a hate crime, keep promoting it that it's trans that committed the crime, what would you agree with that they could do? You still don't agree with taking the firearm away. You just want people to know it was a transgender person. But what are you going to agree? What would you be willing to agree with so that we can make sure it doesn't happen again?
I don't really know. I don't know what I would agree with. That would.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to have some options in front of me that says that this is reasonable or this is reasonable. I mean, you know, uh, they could take away your driver's license at any time if they want to. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't stop you from driving. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
driving is a privilege. It's not a right. With your gun, it's a whole different ballgame. And it's tied to a whole different set of rules, basically. So I don't know. I mean,
There are
there,
no rules to own a
I
gun.
think
That's
there's
the
a time.
problem. Is you can own a gun. That's the problem. Is there are no rules to own a gun. As long as you turn 18, that's it. You don't even need to have arms and legs to own a
Yeah.
gun. As long as you haven't committed a crime, you can have no eyeballs, and they'll let you
Right.
buy a gun. That's the
Yep.
problem. Is there are no rules.
No, because that's the right. You know what I'm saying? That's the point. It's a right to own the gun, regardless of who you are. I'm not
And
saying.
let me ask you that. That's where I go right back to logic versus you're right. In your opinion, does it make logical sense to allow somebody with no arms and legs to buy a gun?
Well, no, it doesn't. Obviously, it doesn't make any sense to me. I
Right,
don't know what the thought
right.
process would be behind them. You know what I'm saying? I would want to know that from my own personal sake. But I mean, again, I wouldn't be the
Not
one to
allowed to
establish.
ask.
Okay, man.
You're not even
Yeah.
you're not even allowed to ask why
Right.
you
Yeah.
want a gun. I mean, that's you can't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
not a. I mean, whole different. I mean, it's just like the same thing with the freedom of speech. I mean, they're trying to destroy it. They're trying to take it away from you. You go to speak at a college that's a liberal college, and they shout down. They don't want you to have your say if you're a conservative. And the students weren't getting like that. And I mean, first of all, I think the government's way too big. I mean, it doesn't need to be near the size that it is. We don't need to go to the government for all of our problems. We need to work
Right.
them out ourselves. You know,
Well,
the government is not the
I
answer for
understand
everything.
I understand your point, but at the end of the day, I'm going to point out I'm African American. The government is the only thing that saved my ass. I wasn't going to get the people to be willing to work with me. If the government hadn't stepped in and ended slavery or gave me civil rights, the people weren't going to do it. So for some of us, the government is all we had.
I mean, think about this. I mean, um, that was
Bob,
an evolution over time. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And
okay.
it could have. And it could have.
You're breaking up.
I mean, it could
You're
have
breaking
been.
up so bad,
It
Bob.
could have been
Go ahead.
rose up.
Yeah, you're breaking up so bad. Unfortunately, I had to drop Bobby. Was breaking up real bad. But looking in the comments here, real quick. I'm sorry this guy is babbling. Listen, let the people speak. Sometimes you're not always going to agree, and that's why I make the solemn promise I don't ban, block, or censor anyone for their commentary. But you're never going to hear a get. Well, I won't say that, but you're never going to get a whole host of guests that you agree everything. Hell, a lot of folks don't agree with yours truly, but I do allow everyone to speak. Leave in the comments. Just because you're black doesn't make you African. Yeah, that's true, Cologne Jones. I don't know where that came from, but I'm just saying for my. And by the way, if you were dark skinned in this country, doesn't matter if you originated in Mexico, you originated in the Caribbean, or whatever the case may be. The same laws applied during that time to you. So I'm just pointing out that when folks suggest that we don't need big government, and why the hell does, blacks keep going with the Liberal Party and they're for big government? It's because of the history of it. Big government is what saved us. When you look at the phrase states' rights, you often will see African Americans hightail and run away from anybody talking about the benefits of states' rights. States' rights has historically been horrible to minorities. So when you point out if you take guns away, countries are going to rise up and be, or your government's going to be tyrannical and things like that. That's why you observe your Second Amendment rights. Well, we feel the same way about states' rights. If you take away big government and let the states do what they want to do, they're going to be tyrannical towards us. So understand your argument works for us as well on a different scale. But you know the history in your heart of how tyranny works with losing gun rights. We have that same mindset towards states' rights. In fact, generally when you hear the phrase states' rights, they are fighting for the right to take something away from someone. I have never heard of the states fighting for the right to give people freedoms. Usually when you hear states' rights, it's to take the freedom of something away from a group of people or someone or some entity. Looking in the comments, F states' rights, Shadow Walker. So true. If states had their way, Mississippi would go back to slavery. That's the stuff I'm talking about. I don't know in modern times if Mississippi would go back to slavery, but I know they would have never left it if they weren't interfered with by the North and Abraham Lincoln. So that's why a lot of us African Americans are not big fans of states' rights. The history of it is horrible. I mean, it's really, really bad. All right, let me keep it moving, and we'll go back to the box. We'll make it happen with the one and only Heather Mommy. Welcome back, Heather.
Hi.
Mississippi is. I'm hearing that. Good afternoon, Heather. We're talking about mass casualty events. What can we actually agree on to save children?
Okay, so when this happened last
Yeah,
year at
thank you.
Uvalde, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
So
loud and clear.
when this happened last year at the supermarket and at Uvalde, Biden did get bipartisan legislation passed for the some of the red flag laws, right? But only 20 of the states actually passed it, Tennessee not being one of those. And if Tennessee would have passed that, and that girl was getting mental health under a doctor's care, that could have prevented her from getting these weapons. So what
Yeah.
we need to do
Why
is
is
we need to write our state representatives, our governors, and we need to push those laws. Like red flag laws are not going to hurt responsible gun owners. So I don't know what they're so afraid of by passing that. It's a simple thing that can
let me
help.
give you an example. Let me give you an example that probably happens 1,000 times in this country every day. A woman divorces a guy. She either gets alimony, child support, or something like that. The guy gets pissed off. Bitch, I'll kill you. Do you think he should lose his gun rights?
Yeah, I don't know, but that is part of the red flag law. But here's the thing,
Yeah.
they don't automatically lose it though. What it is, it's just like a restraining order, right? So it's temporary. So yeah, they might get their gun laws taken away temporarily, just like they can't see their girlfriend until their court date, but oh well. Like let you have your day in court and prove to the judge your case, and that's it.
Do you think a person that makes a threat should lose their gun right? A deadly threat.
Yeah, if they're under mental health care, or if they can be seen by a doctor and a doctor says that they are a threat to society, then yeah, they shouldn't. Why do they need to own
Yeah,
one?
but wait a minute, Heather. Most people that are making threats have not been seen by a doctor and have no intentions of being seen by a doctor.
Well, they need to. They need to see a doctor. If they're out here
So if
making these crazy threats in these schools and things like that, they need to. And mental health needs to be inside of our schools. There need to be mental health counselors in our schools and talking to these kids. Just even if you got one mental health evaluation a year, like they check your teeth at school, they check your head for lice, they can't check your mental health, you know?
good point. So what happens if you got a child that is identifying as trans or identify as gay in a Florida school, and they tell a mental health professional, I don't feel like my class or even my teachers like me because I told them I'm gay. Do you deem that child as mentally unfit?
No. No, I don't think. Why
But
would they be mentally unfit? No, no,
well,
not at all.
the child is stating, I'm depressed. I don't even want to go to school because I feel the school does not like me. I can't even tell people I'm gay. The principal said we can't even talk about this here. It makes me feel awful. All of my students, all of my friends can talk about how they like girls and things, but the minute I say I like guys, the teacher tells me we can't talk about that. I don't feel like I am welcome in this school. Does that child have mental health issues?
No, I don't think that kid has mental health issues. I think that kid just, I think what parents need to do, if your child is having these issues, then you need to go to you need to, everybody just needs to stay involved. You need to go to the school board meetings. You need to find out what's going on in your schools, and if you don't like what's going on in the schools, then get your kid out and put them somewhere where they're more comfortable. Like some of these schools
Well,
are
this is
just,
a state law. This is a state law down in Florida. They're not interested in talking about being gay nowhere in that state. So you got to move out of state.
I don't know, what law are you talking about where you can't say I'm gay?
You never heard of the phrase "don't say gay"?
Yeah, but that's not what the law is. You can't, that's like for kids like what, in under third grade or something. They're just not allowed to talk about sex and things like that. You're allowed to go to school and say I'm
Okay.
gay. You're not going to like get kicked out of school. You know what I mean? That's not what that law
Okay.
is. So,
Okay. Yeah, and I'm yeah, that law is being interpreted differently by different groups of people. But the point I was trying to make is we're trying to determine what qualifies as being mentally ill. What about a teacher that just simply says, I'm getting tired of this job. I got so many badass kids. Sometimes I come home and I want to pull all my damn hair out. Should that teacher lose her gun rights?
oh gosh, no. I don't think so. No.
Okay. So how do we deem someone mentally ill? What does it take, in your opinion? Like, when is the threshold crossed? I mean, I'm giving you examples of people who are admitting things in life is seriously affecting them, and you're saying there's nothing wrong. So what do they have to do? They have to come out and actually make a threat?
Well, no, I mean, just like the red flag laws that are in place now, they're just not in place in all of the states, and they need to be. And some people aren't even pushing them. Like, the red flag laws that have passed and have been proposed, they need to be taken more seriously. And I mean, it's not going to solve everything, but it will help. So if somebody is like in the care of a doctor, for a mental health crisis, then those people, they need to
Yeah,
have
but
a
most
temporary
people who
restraining
are
order.
Yeah, but let me respond to that. But real quick, this is a funny comment from Mama Floor. It says, "This is a talking about you and I. This is a great discussion, but I'm stressed the fuck out." That was funny. But let me tackle what you said in regards to being under the care of a doctor. If I am a true blue passionate Second Amendment supporter, but I know I've been having flashbacks from being at war, or I'm really depressed that my wife left me, I want to keep my guns, but I want to get assistance. I hesitate on going to a doctor because I already know the way I feel. They're going to take my guns away from me. So I'm not even going to do that. I
That's
don't want to go
true.
and do something that's going to cause me to lose my Second Amendment right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
So
Yeah,
even if you,
but
yeah.
that's
So even
why
if
they
you
have.
pass these laws,
But with
go ahead.
the red flag laws, that even if you like, it's not only your doctor that can do this, but like say an immediate family member, say like your wife sees you, acting a certain way, knowing that you don't want to get help, they can get the red flag law isn't like, oh, he's crazy, so let's just take his gun away. It's just like a temporary restraining order. You know what I mean? That's how the red flag law works.
Yeah,
So I
but
don't
you know,
understand.
but come on, Heather. You already know in terms of relationships how, especially when the relationship goes bad or a guy is cheating, women will do and say all kinds of shit. If
Yeah,
I know
you're
I can get your guns taken away, I caught you with this redhead yet again. I know you love them damn guns, so I'm gonna call the police and tell them your ass is crazy. You just said because this is the spouse, and all of a sudden she getting the guy's guns taken.
Well, yeah, that can happen. But I mean, what else are we going to do? The red flag laws have already passed, but they're just I was just using that one as an example because Tennessee, where this happened, and this girl was under, or the shooter was under the care of a doctor, this possibly could have been prevented because she was under the care of a
Yeah.
doctor. You know what I mean? So,
I get your point, but here's what I fear is that you're going
I
to
mean,
have
your
either.
president's the one that passed this.
Yeah, I'm not hating on it. I mean, but keep in mind, Heather, my president probably would want to ban the Second Amendment altogether. So he's just doing whatever the hell
Yeah,
he can to get
yeah,
at least something done. You and I both know President Biden would go a hell of a lot further than this if he wasn't facing so much resistance from your side.
right.
So I will say this though, what this makes me fear is you're going to have a hell of a lot of either NRA doctors that tell you what language to use not to lose your gun rights, or you're going to have the NRA telling people to avoid going to doctors because they'll take your gun rights away.
I mean, but I mean, it's already been signed into law for almost a year now. I mean, have you heard of any of those cases? Like, I haven't heard of anybody complaining about it.
No, that's a good point. I'd have to do more homework on it and see how many. Like, I would like to know how many guns have been seized by these red flag laws. Are the
Yeah,
laws
because
is the standard so damn high? Because if Republicans agree to anything that leads to you losing your gun, you got to assume the standard is pretty damn high. You got to be walking down the street smoking a crack pipe, talking about I'm about to go kill somebody right now, and they're like, yeah, okay, maybe we'll take his. So I'd have to hear what's in those laws because if the Republicans agreed to them, they got to be pretty high standards.
Well, because there's 20 states that it's in effect, and 13
Yeah,
proposed, and 18 states don't want any part of it. I live in a very blue state. I live in Pennsylvania, and it's been shot down every single time. So,
yeah. I'd be curious to see which
same with
states
Tennessee.
agree with it. Yeah, I'd be. I'd
Vermont,
be.
New
I mean, is it
York.
is it mostly?
It's
Go ahead.
Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Connecticut, Maryland, Virginia, Delaware, DC, Florida, Hawaii, California, New Mexico, Colorado, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, Illinois, and Indiana. I'm looking at the
I
map.
heard Nevada. I heard Nevada. Yeah, I heard Nevada, and I heard other than that, the Bible Belt sound like they gave a big fuck you to it. I didn't hear
Yeah,
any other Bible
yes.
Belt state other than Florida.
Yes. They're all
Yeah.
gray, so that means that it's not even proposed in there anymore.
Damn. Yeah. Well, then I guess it would probably not be a good place to continue sending kids to school. All right, Heather, you know what I got to
Right.
do. Appreciate you coming in
All
here
right.
once
Have a
again.
good day, guys.
Hey, good talk.
Bye.
I gotta look that up. I got you mentioned. I didn't know. I want to know a little bit more about it. But yeah, I'll talk to you on the next one. All right, looking in. Pennsylvania isn't very blue, more purple. That is true. That is true. Ohio used to be purple, but it's now looking more and more red. All East Coast, where we have common sense. She said Oregon. Oregon's is obviously on the West Coast. The mindset politically of those on the East Coast is similar. California is pretty. I think I am kind of what do you call it, delay or breaking up. Nevertheless, looking in the comments here with the South is something else. Yeah, the South wants to rise again. The South is not interested in giving up their damn title 200 plus years later. I don't know what the hell it is about the South. Me personally, I love dead. Oh my God. I don't normally ban folks or block anybody, but this individual put in the comments, me personally, I love dead school. You know what I'm talking about, the participants of school. So that is going to be the first person I've blocked, I think, since I've been doing programs. I think that's the first person I've ever blocked. But to actually put a comment in regards to children do not have to troll that fucking bad. That's a person that should lose their damn gun rights. I don't care if you are playing to actually go online and make a statement or shit and giggles to get attention or whatever the hell else is the reason. Actually, one on like children. You know how you word get blocked my damn self, but you get what I'm saying. That is the worst comment I've ever seen. Been blocked. First person after a month that I had to ban. That is repulsive. Honor, my folks, to quote the Honorable Hillary Clinton. Arkansas, I live in Arkansas. Leave my gun alone. Well, leave the children of Arkansas alone. This won't keep happening. The fact is, children are losing their lives, and people want to defend the life of children. So you're going to get radical responses when children are losing their lives. Nevertheless, folks, I understand I am lagging. So I am going to go ahead. This is a lunch break live. I'll go ahead and terminate the live as we normally do around this time. I do appreciate you folks getting your boy up to 39,000 likes. Should have been twice as much. Some lazy thumbs on the program today. Nevertheless, it is always an honor to have you here. You could be anywhere you want to be on social media. So the fact that you roll with your boy for an hour, it's always an honor. So thank you. Appreciate that. And Adam, the pilot, thank you, sir, for coming on. Love your show. Thank you as well. I love the fact that you're participating in the comments, showing your boy some love. Always a pleasure. Nevertheless, this is a MAGA-friendly audience as always. MAGA are my preferred guests. Never worry about being banned, blocked, or censored. We don't do that here. I'll read a couple comments, respond to them before I wrap it up. Make America Great Again is sadly looking less and less daily. Well, what would be the blueprint to make America great? Obviously, with Biden in office for 2+ years, many would assume he is not making the country great. We had 4 years of Trump. Do you view America under the Trump administration as quote unquote great? Now, keep in mind, being great is not necessarily just the economy alone, not necessarily world peace alone. If you have a lot of clashes in this country, that doesn't qualify as great. We can talk about Black Lives Matter or whatever the hell you want to discuss, but those riots were happening under President Trump's watch. That's not great. Looking in the comments, make America great if definitely not Trumpism. Fair enough. The Biden regime has taken us down a dark path with treasonous policies. What policies of President Biden qualifies as treason? I would love to hear what you have to say. He inherited a growing economy from Obama. I hear that in regards to Trump all the time. I could use a damn brick as an assault weapon. Yeah, you're not going to kill a bunch of kids at school with a damn brick. You might not even get one. You know how fast little kids can run these days? Good luck with your brick. China ain't won shit. Who said China won anything? Biden is exactly why it's failing. Well, you have to wonder, why did Biden get elected in the first place? Think about that. You look at the Trump economy, you look at the Trump numbers. Many would suggest Trump should have been reelected. But then you look at how he acted. So if you want to talk about the failures of Biden, don't forget to consider that Trump is the reason you have him to begin with. Okay, Florida is the new Mississippi. I really hope not. I really hope the people of Florida does not make that statement true. But I understand where you're trying to go with that. But that's the problem with the term assault weapon. Here's the issue in regards to assault weapon. Many folks on the right often ridicule folks on the left for using the term assault rifle, assault weapon, and saying they're using that term incorrectly. Some would suggest there is no such thing as an assault rifle. Where did liberals get this term? I'll give you guys a little bit of fun homework to do. Google assault weapon magazine cover. You will notice back in the 1980s, they were calling those weapons assault rifles and assault weapons on the magazine covers of Guns and Ammo and a lot of the companies that sold the guns or promoted the guns. Liberals didn't make that up out of being sheerly ignorant. That is actually what the gun makers were calling those weapons. They were calling them assault rifles. They don't do it now because they're trying to ridicule the liberals with it. But if you go on Google and simply type assault rifle magazine cover, you'll get a host of them. That is what they were calling those damn guns. So now all of a sudden the liberals are using the same damn term the makers of the weapons used 30 years ago, and we're wrong, we're idiots for using what the guy who sold the damn weapon was calling it? There are a host of magazine covers that say assault rifles and assault weapons by the companies that were promoting the damn gun. Nevertheless, I got to wrap it up. Catch you guys later. It is your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. See you tomorrow.